All right, guys, so we're going to go on and get started with going over the review sheet. Are there any questions on 1 through 4?
Yes, sir.
Which one? Number 1. Now, one way we can look at any of these here is we could first off start off by drawing it or graphing it on a number line. Now, the graph of the number line is not going to be required as part of your answer, but it can be used to help you get to interval notation. So for this here, we have 2 points. Now we have the negative 256 and 100. So if I were to graph this, we would start off with negative 256 and 100 as our 2 points. And the circles at both of these here. Now the 256 is going to be open because it's not equal to, and the 100 would be filled in because it is equal to. And then we would shade in the middle. Now, the reason I start off with this here is because it's sometimes easier to write an interval notation, if we're looking at the graph. Because as we look at this here, the smallest spot that we have is negative 256. Now, would it be opened or closed? It is opened, yes? Yes. Because x is in the middle. Now, since negative 256 is open, it's not included, we would have a parenthesis. And the other end is 100. Now this is shaded in, it is included, so we would have a bracket. So the answer for this is that right there. So any other questions on number 1?
Wait, okay, so we have to draw the number line?
No, just the inequality. We're writing an interval notation, which is the one I circled. Now, it's sometimes helpful to see it as a graph to be able to translate it straight there. So you don't need it, but if you find it helpful, you can use it.
And the reason we put a little...
Yep, the bracket
is because it was equal to?
Yes, brackets are equal to or included, parentheses are not. Now, guys, no, up here. Now we can look at 2, because if we wanted to graph this, well, we only have one number. We have the 200. Now, at this point here, we would have an open or closed point. It would be open because it's not included. Now, would we shade to the right or to the left? Because x is less than, so all the numbers less than would be to the left. Now, whenever this goes, kind of the graph goes to one arrow or the other, it just goes off in one direction, it means that we're going to include infinity or negative infinity. Now, is this going to infinity or is it going to negative infinity?
Negative.
So, the smallest number that we can have is negative infinity. And anytime we include infinity or negative infinity, it has to have the parentheses with it. Parentheses, negative infinity. Now, the biggest number we can have is, and since it's not included, we would have a parenthesis. And that's it. Questions on this here? Any questions on 1 through 4? Guys, any questions on 4 or 5 through 8?
I have number 7.
Now with this one here, if we wanted to graph it to visually see what this looks like, well, we have 2 numbers. One of them is 96 and the other is 100. On our 2 circles, both of these would be open because neither one of them is equal to. And then we would shade in the middle. Now we write as an interval notation, we start with the smallest number, which is, and is it included? Well, no, so it would be a parenthesis. Our other number is?
What do you mean it's not?
Is it equal to it? So we have this here. Any other questions on 7 or 8? Or 1 through 8?
Which one? 1 through 8?
I think they're all about the same.
Okay,
Let's look at 9 through 14. Are there questions on 9 or 10?
Number 9.
Number 9, whenever we look at one and it gives us an interval notation, we need to rewrite it back as an inequality. So this one has two bounds. One of them is -24, the other is 87. And for this one here, x is going to be in the middle. Now the 27 is not equal to because it has a parentheses. So we just have the -24 is less than x. Now for the other one, we will have the less than, but we will also have the equal to because it is a bracket. Any questions on how we wrote this as an inequality? Now to write it as a set builder notation, they're all going to start the same. Brace x bar, the set of all real numbers x, is such that, and this is what it's telling us. So we always start with this here, then we put the description, what we're describing. Whenever it's an inequality, like this here, we just put the inequality. -24 is less than x is less than or equal to 87, brace, and we're done. You're good. Any other questions on 9 or 10, guys? Questions on 9 or 10? Yeah. Now it already gave us the inequality, yes? But are we talking about all real numbers? No. So what we'll do is we'll start off the same. So we have brace x bar. The set of all real numbers x such that, well, what? X is not a part of the all real numbers. It's what? An integer. So we have to describe that first. X is an integer. And what else is what it tells us? Greater than or equal to. And that's it. Now we could have done this in a different way because we could have used our symbols and said x bar. X is an element of the integers. For all real numbers x such that x is an element of integers. X is an integer. And x is greater than or equal to 200. And I believe the answer key gave at least both of these here, yes? It might have given one more. Because, I mean, there's one other way we can write it, and that's really just saying x is an element of the integers such that x is greater than or equal to 200. Because we could have put it on the other side of the bar, because instead of saying the set of all real numbers x, we're saying the set of all real, or kind of all integers x, such that x is greater than or equal to 200. So we can simplify it. But again, either one of these is the correct answer. You just have to put one. You don't have to put both. Any other questions on 9 or 10? Questions on 11 through 14.
14.
Now this here we have two different interval notations. We just need to rewrite both of these as inequalities. So negative infinity comma -4. So we're saying the set of all real numbers less than or equal to -4, because that's just what that one says as an interval, from interval to inequality. Now the other one is 4 comma infinity. So we're saying x is greater than 4. We include the equal to on the first one because it has the bracket. We don't include it on the second one because it has a parenthesis next to the 4. Infinity will always have a parenthesis. We're looking at the actual number. Any questions on how we rewrote these as inequalities? All of them are going to start off the same. Brace x bar. For all real numbers x such that what? Well, x is less than or equal to -4. Or x is greater than 4. And that's it. So really, if we're given an interval, we just need to write it as an inequality, throw in the x brace x bar, inequality, brace, we're done. If they already gave us the inequality, brace x bar, inequality, close brace, and we're done. And that's it. Questions on any of these here? Nope. We ready for the next one? Questions on 15 or 16? 15. There's two ways we can do these. We can plug them into the calculator, or we can do them by hand. I have a feeling most of y'all are going to want to do it in the calculator, yes? We're going to do these in the calculator here. Now, again, on the test, there's only going to be one that you have to do by hand to get the credit, and that's the bonus. All the ones on the test, you can plug into the calculator and put the answer down, and you'd be good. That's all you'll need. Now, for this here, when we plug this in the calculator, the first thing we need to do is make sure that the matrix or the three equations are in the form of x, y, z. All the x's are first, y's are next, z is last, all on the same side, and the constant terms are on the other, which it is. The next thing we'll do is go second matrix and over to edit. Now, all of these three variable systems of equations are going to be a 3x4 matrix. And we can start off by plugging in the first set of numbers across the top. So we'd have -1, -5, -5, and 2. Then we'll plug in the next set, which would be 4, -5, 4, 19. And lastly, we'll have 1, 5, -1, and -20. So any questions on how we type these numbers in? And again, we're not putting the variables in, we're just putting the numbers in front of it. Now, if there is a variable missing from one of the equations, if y wasn't included in one of the three, we would put what in its place? 0. Because if one of the variables shows up in one of the equations, it must be present in all of the rest of them. Now, after we get this plugged in, we're going to go second quit. We're going to hit second mode. For the numbers. Now, what are we looking for next? We need RREF. So to get that, we're going to go second matrix. But this time, instead of to edit, we go to math. Now, you can scroll up or down. It doesn't matter which. What we're looking for is RREF. RREF. You do not want REF, row epsilon form. We want reduced form. Reduced form will give you the answer. REF will give you a form that you actually have to edit further to get to the answer. Now, once we find RREF, we're going to get enter. Now we need to call up the matrix that we put this in. So lastly, we would go second matrix. Now we put it in A, the first one. So we can just hit enter and enter one more time. And there's the answer, -2, -3, 3. And that's it. Any questions on this one here? So over here, let's see here, it was -2, -3, 3. -2, -3, 3. And that's it. That's it. That's all you need. And that's the answer. Questions on any of this here? Questions on 15 or 16? Now with 15 through 18, you will, problems like this here, you will get a solution on the test. We won't have no real solutions or all real. You will get an answer. Okay? Yes, sir. Now, I will say this. If you put one of these three numbers as a decimal and the other two show up as decimals, You need to write them all three as decimals or all three as fractions. I don't want you putting the value of x as, say, 1/2, the value of y is 0.5, and then the value of z is 3/4. If you picked one of them as a decimal, put them all as a decimal. Or if you picked one of them as a fraction, put the rest as fractions, if that is it. Now, if it gave you the answer of -2, then 0.3, and then 4, where two of them are whole numbers, the other's not, that's fine. But if one of them turns or multiple turn into decimals, you leave it, put them all as decimals or put them all as fractions. Don't be switching between the two. Does that make sense? Okay. Do we need to see another example of 15 through 18? If we do have time, afterwards I can come back and do one of those by hand. For any of those that y'all want, for any of those who want to see that. Questions on 19 or 20? 20. Now for this here, we want to write the augmented matrix form of this here and state the dimension. So there are two parts to this here. Now the first thing we want to make sure is that each one of these equations is in the form of x, y, z. X first, y second, z third. Now if we look at the middle equation, is it written in this form? Okay, put it right there. Well, no, the x and y are flipped, yes? But x, y, and z, all the variables are on the correct side. The numbers are on the correct side. We just need to flip those two. So if we rewrote this, we would have -7x plus y plus 4z is equal to 15. Because we just need to switch those two. Now, normally if I do this here, I will mark through this equation just to tell myself I'm talking about this equation over here, not this one here. Just so when I start doing the augmented matrix, I don't flip back to the other one. Now we write this augmented matrix. We'll see, might need a little more space than that. We can go with the first equation. We start with the value in front of x, which is +6. Then the value for y is 0, because is there a y? No. If there's a missing variable, there's one not written in, we put it as 0. Because if we looked at the other two equations, the middle one does have y, the other one has y, so I need that in there. The value of z is 4, and it's equal to 2. Now we can do the next one. So our value for x is -7. The value in front of y is 1, and the value in front of z is 4. Now this is equal to 15. And last but not least, the value in front of x is 6, then -1, because we need the sign in front of it, then 3 and 20, guys. Any questions on how we wrote this augmented matrix? Yes. Then we need the dimensions, which is a 3×4. Questions on any of this here? And again, these will be worth a good number of points for setting these up. I'll probably put them somewhere between 1/2 to 1/3 of a point probably per element. So per number inside that matrix. So if I did it at 1/3, 1, 2, 3, so that's worth 4 points just for setting the matrix up. One more point for the dimensions, so that's worth about 5 to 6 points of your test just for setting this up right. Well, you will lose points according to which ones you miss. Because again, if you got them all correct, then yes, it could be 5 to 6 points you got for this one here. Now, any other questions on 19 or 20? Questions on 21 or 22? Questions on 23 or 24? For 23, do we need a value for z? No, because neither equation had z. I don't need to put a value in for it. (25 through 29), which one do we want to look at? 26. With these here, there's only two movements that it's going to deal with, up or down, or left or right. Up and down, our general form is f of x plus k. Our up, left, and right is our f of x minus h. I decided not to include vertical stretch or shrink, horizontally or vertically, or reflections. So the only ones that it's going to ask you to do is to move it up or down, left or right. There are some that ask you to move it up and down or left and right. There's a few that just ask you to do it in one direction, not two. So if we look at this here, and again, when we apply these, we do them in the order in which they're listed. So it tells us f of x is equal to the absolute value of 2x minus 1. The first thing we want to do is translate it 4 units to the right. Now the general form for this here is f of x minus h. Now, for our case in point, we'll call the final, or kind of the function after we apply this transformation, g of x. Now for us here, h is our movement to the left or right. And its value is what? 4, because it's telling us right 4, yes? Would its sign be positive or negative? Would the 4's value be positive or negative? Positive, because it's moving to the right. So I plug in a positive 4. But in the function, it looks like negative 4, yes? And that's fine, because again, we're plugging in positive 4. We're replacing h with positive 4. The fact that it has the minus isn't a part of that. This is just a part of the equation. X minus h is a part of the general form. So moving right 4 will look like x minus 4 inside the parentheses. Questions on this here? Okay. Well, we started out with f of x, yes? Well, we replaced x with what? X minus 4, yes? So inside the function, I'm going to replace this x with x minus 4. Which means we'll have the absolute value of 2 times, well, it was times x. It's not times x anymore. It's times x minus 4 minus 1. So all I did was took the x and replaced it with x minus 4. Questions on this here? Now we do need to simplify. We'll have to distribute the 2. Absolute value 2 times x is 2x. 2 times negative 4 is negative 8 minus 1. And lastly, negative 8 minus 1 is negative 9. If we can combine like terms, we need to combine like terms. And this here is, I have a little space to write this, g of x. So we have our g of x function, yes? If you don't have space to write that, that's fine. But it's just a reminder that this is g of x. Questions on any of this here? So we moved it right 4, yes? Now we need to do what? We need to move it up 3. So we're taking this g of x and adding k to it. Because if I move it up or down, we're adding that k value to it. Now for us here, how far are we moving it up or down? 3. And it is up, yes? So it would be plus 3. If it had been down 3, we would have put minus 3. Questions on this so far? Now what is our g of x? The absolute value of 2x minus 9. So we'll replace g of x with that. Absolute value of 2x minus 9. 2x, okay. Well, I'm going to try rewriting this again. 2x minus, all right, minus 9. And then we have what? Plus 3, yes? And that's it. We could put parentheses around the absolute value of 2x minus 9, but since we don't have anything being multiplied in front of it, we don't have to include them. And that's the final answer. That's all we have to do with this here. Any other questions on this here? So again, with these here, we're only moving it up, down, left, or right. Yes, sir. Yes. I need your... Any other questions on these here, these transformations up, down, left, right? And again, the main thing that we'll need to do with these here is that we'll have to do one at a time. And I would always go back to these here. We'll always have to go back to these here. Questions on this here? We feel comfortable with these here? All right. Now the numbers are a little off on the ones that are on the screen. Do we want, so I think it's my number 30 is yours number 32. So with this here, we could do this in the calculator. I could define this as matrix A and do 1/4 times matrix A, and it would give us the answer. If we did this by hand, what we're doing is we're multiplying each of these by 1/4. We're multiplying each element by 1/4. So we're multiplying 16, 24, 30, and 9 by 1/4. And if we did this here, I mean, again, at this point, we could plug each one of these into the calculator because we can say 1/4 times 16, which gives us 4. Then I could type in 1/4 times 24, which is 6. Now, 1/4 of 30 is 7.5. And 1/4 of 9 is 2.25. And we could have written it as this here. Now, or we could have said 4, and then we'd have 15 halves, 6, and 9/4. Now, if you want to pull up a fraction on the calculator, you'll hit math, enter, enter. So math, enter, enter right after it. So math, enter, enter. Or alpha y equals and go down to the bottom. Either one works. So this is one of the ones I was talking about earlier. So if you gave one of these, so 7.5, I want the 2.25. But if you chose, instead of doing 7.5, you chose to do as 15 halves, you'll need the other one as 9/4. So either you'll have both of them as fractions or both of them as decimals. Don't switch between the two as you write your answer. Questions on this here? Any other questions on these two here? We good with, I think it's 32 and 33 on y'all's? Any questions on these two here? And again, if we plug these in the calculator, we just have to define them as A, B, and C, and then type it into the calculator. Once we finish defining A, B, and C, we say 2 times A minus 4 times B plus C, hit enter, and we will get our answer. Now, for us to be able to add or subtract any two matrices, the dimensions have to be the same. So what about 33? No solution. Or we can say that it is undefined. Now, a no solution or undefined, one of these here, one of these undefined, I will put one of these or possibly put one of these on the test. I find these different than a no solution for the system because, again, you're having to plug a lot more stuff in for the system of equation. Here, it's mainly looking, does the dimensions of this one and the dimensions of this one, are they the same? Yes or no? If they are, then we can do it. If not, it's undefined. I feel like this is different than the others because this is more just looking at it, not doing a lot of steps to try to figure it out and then get to the end and it says no solution or something goes funky. This is more looking at it. Are they the same? Yes, do it. If not, Undefined. Questions on this here?
How many points would that be?
For no solution or undefined, 2. Because they're going to be worth less than the others.
Yeah.
So if we feel comfortable with those, we're going to look at the last part, writing the equations of the line. I'm not going to ask you to determine or kind of explain the slope. I just want you to find the equation. Do y'all want to look at 38, 39, or 40? 39, they didn't give us the y-intercept or the slope. So the first thing we'll need to find is the slope, which is our y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Now, they did give us 2 points, so I just need to pick one of the y values to go first. Which one do we want to use? So we can use, either one works, doesn't matter. 90, and then the other one is 40. Now, since we picked 90 to go first, its x value has to go first also, which is, incidentally, 40. And the other x value has to go second, which is 15. Now, at this point here, you can plug this in a calculator, tell it 90 minus 40 over 40 minus 15, hit enter, and it will give you an answer. If we did this by hand, well, 90 minus 40 is 50 over 25, which is indeed 2. So the slope of this line is 2. Now, to find the equation of the line, we're going to use our point slope form. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And again, at this point here, we need to pick one of the y values. So y1 in this case is 40 equals 2 times x minus 15. Now at this point here, we need to simplify this here. So the first thing we can do is distribute the 2. So 2 times x is, 2 times negative 15 is negative 30. And last but not least, we need to get y by itself, so we can add 40 to both sides. And if we add 40 to both sides, we do get y by itself, and it tells us that 2x plus 10 is on the other side. So the equation of this line is y equals 2x plus 10. Any other questions on this here? Do we know, were you all able to figure out the equation of the line for the next one? Or the last one? So, this point right here is what? 0, comma. So what is the slope of this line? So slope would be y2 minus y1. So one of them is 65 minus the other, which is 65, yes? One of our x values is 0 minus, well, 65 minus 65 is what? Over negative 5. Well, this is 0, because 0 divided by anything is just 0. If we have it the other way, it's undefined. So does this line have a slope? Do we know what the y-intercept is? 0, 65. We could use the other equation, y minus y1, And we could say that the y1 value is 65 is equal to 0 times x minus, we can say 5. Now we can simplify this down. What is 0 times anything? So on the left-hand side, we'll have 0 minus 65 is equal to 0, yes? Add 65 to both sides. And we get y is equal to 65. Because whenever we have a flat line, there is no slope. It's just going to be y equals whatever the y-intercept is. Because the y value is not changing. Any other questions on any of this here? So again, your